Welcome to Politics Nation. I'm Al Sharpton. Tonight's lead, President Obama wants action on jobs. Today, he threw down the gauntlet to Republicans in Congress, demanding they put politics aside and actually do something to create jobs. He accused them of failing to act and of putting the economy at risk.
Last September, I sent Congress a detailed jobs plan full of the kind of bipartisan ideas that would have put more Americans back to work. If Congress had passed it in full, we'd be on track to have 1 million more Americans working this year. The unemployment rate would be lower. Our economy would be stronger. Of course, Congress refused to pass this jobs plan in full.
Among other things, the plan would have created or saved 400,000 education jobs. It would have done the same for thousands of police and firefighter jobs, and it would have jump-started new infrastructure projects across the country. When it was introduced, John McCain's former economist said it would create 1.9 million new jobs and reduce the unemployment rate by 1%. And the American people loved it. 75% supported investing in teacher and police and firefighter jobs. 72% liked investing in the infrastructure. And 72% thought we should help pay for it by raising taxes on millionaires. And yet, Republicans have voted against it over and over again.
There's no excuse for not passing these ideas. We know they can work. Now, if Congress decides, despite all that, that they aren't going to do anything about this simply because it's an election year, then they should explain to the American people why.
The question now is, with Republicans having to face the voters, will they still dare to block jobs for people who are in this country really struggling? Joining me now is Congressman Sandra Levin, Democrat from Michigan, and Jared Bernstein, MSNBC contributor and the former chief economist for Vice President Joe Biden. Congressman, let me start with you. The president talked today about his jobs plan. There's also a highway bill that House Republicans are blocking. It would create or save 3 million jobs. It passed the Senate with bipartisan support. Is there any legitimate explanation for Republicans in the House just blocking these?
None. There's only one explanation. It goes back to what Mitch McConnell said 20 months ago, that the single most important thing they want to achieve is that the president is not reelected, and they are carrying that out. What President Obama said today is exactly right, except when he said Congress, it's the Republicans in Congress who don't want anything to happen, and they're blocking the highway bill. They're blocking the other provisions mentioned by the president today. I sent a letter last Friday to the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee. I'm the ranking member, and I listed 6 bills that would help create jobs. They've been sitting on them, and the answer to my letter has been silence.
Wow.
November 6th is what the Republicans have in mind. We need to throw down the gauntlet and get this economy moving even better.
Now, we'll admit Romney today really attacked the president and said, Congressman, that we really don't need to worry about, in effect, policemen and firefighters. Let me show you what he said.
He wants another stimulus. He wants to hire more government workers. He says we need more firemen, more policemen, more teachers. It's time for us to cut back on government and help the American people.
We don't need to hire more firefighters and policemen and teachers. We don't need stimulus. What is he talking about, Congressman?
I think you need to ask Governor Romney. You know, the public sector has been losing jobs. Here in Michigan, firefighters have been laid off. Policemen have been laid off. We don't need them. I think Governor Romney is really talking much too politically, and he needs to go back and talk to the people. Have him come back here in Michigan, and we'll let him know whether we need more policemen and more firefighters.
Now, yeah, I hear that. Jared, let me ask you, stimulus. How do you recover without some stimulus, without government investment? You know, I was reading Paul Krugman this morning. He talked about a big spending president. Very interesting. He says if you look at their records 3 years into their terms, you'll see that under one president, real per capita government spending at that point was 14.4% higher than 4 years previously under the other. Less than half as much, just 6.4%. Reagan, not Obama, was the big spender. Now, these are the people, the party, that waves up Ronald Reagan as the great role model and as the father of conservatism. Reagan spent money, and he wasn't even dealing with near the economic problems that President Obama faced.
Ronald Reagan would last about 30 seconds in today's Republican Party, despite their rhetoric. He also raised taxes 11 times. Look, you asked a question about stimulus at a time like this. Here's the way to think of it. Look at all the economies throughout the globe. We're unfortunately engaged in this pretty terrible natural experiment where we're seeing what happens when you impose austerity, that is fiscal contraction, on economies that are still demand constrained. That's just a fancy way of saying they're not creating enough jobs on their own. Now, this needs to be temporary, but it needs to happen now. It actually should have happened a year ago, as the president said when he proposed his Jobs Act, because the private sector is not yet back up, fully recovered from the depths of the Great Recession. And that's why these kinds of temporary measures are needed. And the counterexample, you look at how the fiscal contraction, the Republican-style plans are working across the globe. They're taking economies and they're just wrenching the growth out of them. Unemployment is 11% in the Eurozone. Is that what we want here? I don't think so.
So Europe used austerity, which has not worked, and they're, in essence, trying to use the same kind of economic philosophy here, Jared.
That's correct.
Congressman, let me...
Jared, let me just mention, Reverend Sharpton, there was a hearing, I think, yesterday, the day before, and a very, very neutral observer was challenged by the Republicans about the stimulus package, and he indicated almost every economist said it worked, not perfectly, but it helped to create jobs. That's the truth. And what the Republicans have to do is to be told the truth and get off the duff.
Ben Bernanke said the same thing yesterday, and I don't think he's some kind of wild-eyed liberal. So you're right, sir.
No, not last time I checked. Congressman, let me play something to you that I heard a wise man say about what the Republicans may really be doing with this jobs bill. And I want your opinion on what this wise man said.
A deliberate effort, now increasingly undisguised, to close the door on action to engender job creation and economic growth before the election. That is not only cynical, it is indeed pernicious. We owe it to the American people to blow the whistle on this.
Now, we're not going to debate whether the guy is wise, but what he said I thought was very heavy. Will you care to elaborate on that, Congressman?
Well, you did at the beginning. We need job creation. The Republicans are being irresponsible. I said yesterday, pernicious, and I meant it. And the president was right today to throw down the gauntlet, and the American people now need to respond, and all of us need to go out to the American people. I think the president needs to be kind of like Harry Truman and go out and talk about why it is pernicious for the Republicans to refuse to act on jobs bills because it might hurt them on November 6th. We need to help the American people who need jobs. Government doesn't create them, but we can help stimulate private sector growth, and we need to do that with proposals that the president has been presenting, Reverend Sharpton. It's really that clear, and a few days ago, the majority leader in the House said all they're going to do between now and November 6th is to signal, no, we need action. We need action.
I couldn't agree with you more. Congressman Sander Levin and Jared Bernstein, thanks to you both for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Coming up.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, Mitt Romney is playing fast and loose with the facts, but is claiming he is going to be the candidate of truth.
I will not be that president of doubt and deception. I will lead us to a better place.
Well, tonight we're going to debut our Willard meter to rate his deceptions. Plus, an offensive ad featuring an assault rifle becomes a big story in the race to replace Gabby Giffords. But the story and the outrage goes much deeper. And we'll talk to some experts who think the Republicans are the problem in Washington and have the facts to back them up. You're watching Politics Nation on MSNBC.